Uh, we have with us Sulakshana, and for me, her introduction is that she's a woodworker. She has a company, Mishtu Made. That's where I got introduced to her. On Facebook, I have interest in woodworking. I have not been able to do that, but I really admire her work. I thought it would be interesting because she is not trained to do that. She shifted later on in her career to do this thing, and it would be interesting to see her journey from your perspective. I think this is something she loves. She trains people in woodworking. She'll explain what she does. The session is divided into two parts. The first one is a small talk here, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes max. And then in sections, like section A, B, C, we'll go to the JSA, Art and Architecture Studio, where you will actually work with the wood, with the tools, and you'll be cutting wood and shaping wood. In sections, a brief introduction, but yes, you'll actually get a hands-on thing. So over to Sulakshana, please.
Thanks, Deepak. Hello? Come on, I know it's 4 o'clock. Louder. Hello? You were making a lot more noise when you walked in. I think you can do better. So, my name is Sulakshana. I'm not going to sit on that throne there. I'm going to be sitting right here. So, my name is Sulakshana. I think we're seeing a few more people walk in. Okay. So, I started my career many years ago. I loved science. I absolutely love science. I love that it is able to explain simple things so clearly. So for instance, why is this light white? What is the possible gas inside? From silly things like that, I absolutely loved science. So I chose physics and I did my first degree in physics and I hated it. Because unfortunately, the love of a subject and the way it's taught does not always match up. That was my experience. So I worked like a very good Indian, worked in IT for the first 4 years of my career. Enjoyed it, enjoyed coding, again, love all the logical stuff, but hated, again, the structure of the corporate world. So when I was 24, I shifted to the social development sector. I did my first master's degree from London. I started working with women from sort of South Asia, which includes India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh. These were women that had just moved to the UK. They got married off and they moved there. They didn't have a great grasp on the English language and they were being abused by their families there. So I ran a shelter and it was such a shift in career for me, but it was so exciting. Since then, I worked in public policy, international diplomacy, etc. for 15 years. So I worked as the Director of Juvenile Justice for Baltimore City in Maryland, US. So I worked with the criminal justice system. I worked in India with the Ministry of IT. All of these were fantastic experiences. My story is not at all about, oh, I got so disillusioned with what I was doing and that's why I shifted. Not at all. I loved the science. I still read NASA reports. I read scientific journals because I love science. I still love coding. My own business, the invoicing software, I coded it myself in Access. I do Visual Basic coding. I do all of that. I still love public policy work. I still read about, what's happening in politics, how the world changes, all of the issues I'm sure you guys know so much more about than I did at your age, like climate change and how it's affecting us, every issue, right? And I think you've covered some of these in the last 4 or 5 days you've been here. I love all of that. But something I love more than all of that, which I discovered as a hobby in the US, was working with my own hands. How many of you have ever worked with your own hands? And it can be as simple as cleaning your own room, like not just putting away your clothes, but like washing floors. How many of you have ever done any kind of farming? How many of you have ever cut a piece of wood and made something? How many of you have burnt wood and made a barbecue? Can I have a show of hands of anybody that's done things with their hands? What have you done? Yell out things that you've done. Barbecue? Which parts of the barbecue? Did you build the barbecue?
Yeah, like we got the wood and then we built the fire and then like we roasted the chicken and we had to roast it high.
Okay, fantastic. What else?
Carpentry.
Oh, you've done who said that? Okay, where did you do carpentry?
Club at school.
Oh, fantastic. I want to give a big up to any school. I was just discussing with Deepak here that kids don't get, not in my time and not even now, get introduced to something you do with your hands. It feels very different, doesn't it? A carpentry class feels very different than any other class that you do. Even though you might learn more or less, it doesn't matter. If you do something, it engages a different part of your brain. Anybody else?
Clay modeling.
Oh, fantastic. Do you actually do kiln firing and all of that?
No, I just started with it at my school.
Okay, fantastic. Is that something that interests you? Want to do more of that?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, fantastic. What else? None of the boys have spoken up. What up?
Carpentry in school.
Carpentry in school? Okay, how many students have option of carpentry in school? Oh, that's great. What schools? Where? Which school are you in?
I actually studied there for 2 years. It is in Nasik, Orchid International.
Okay, fantastic. So I think I like this is really encouraging to hear because back in my day this wasn't so much the option. We had sports and we had the usual sort of academic courses, but nothing that's tactile. So one of the things I really enjoy about this is that it engages my problem solving, which I've developed through all of these years of working and just living, in a very different way. So now if you sit down and you have a paper, an exam, you have a set of questions, hopefully you read the right books, and apparently I'm not giving the right kind of sound. Have at it. Kya karna hai isko? Okay, what do you need? No amount of carpentry will teach you how to do this right, apparently. Belt me? Does that work? It's fine. It won't fall. Nahi girega. Don't worry. Yeah. So, whenever I do woodworking classes, right, and it's really interesting because you're working with a living material. You think, you will see later, you think you're cutting it just straight, but it won't. Now you have a piece of wood that is a little bit bent. It's not like being able to, you can learn all the techniques, but when you're actually doing it physically with your hands, and anybody that's done carpentry or done anything that is tactile, you'll realize that things will go wrong and you'll have to problem solve on the go. I'm not trying to make people, or any of you, carpenters here. The question is, when you start working with your hands, and I did a lot of urban farming in the US, so we grew our own vegetables. And I learned how to fall in love with spiders, who used to scare me so much before that. But I realized that these spiders actually eat the bugs that are eating my plants. So I got really friendly with them. You never touch them and say hello, but I mean, I accepted them a lot more in my life. So it's like problem solving on the go, and this helps me in day-to-day activities. So for instance, barbecue, whoever said they had built a barbecue, my family wanted to do a barbecue and I don't have one. So I was like, all right, I'm a maker. What can we do? So I took this giant cement flower pot, the big planters. Now what do I need? I needed to be able to conduct heat but not get heated on the outside. So I packed it around with soil, put a couple of bricks in, and took this grill I had from this old electric barbecue or something, packed it with all this wood that I actually cut off, like really nice teak and all of that smells so nice when it burns. Got some lighter fluid from someone, and there you go, you have a barbecue. So it helps you problem solve in real time. I have had students that come back really proudly and say, ma'am, mere ghar ka na nal ka kaam nahi kar raha tha, and this time I didn't call a plumber, I just stood MC लाके मैंने खुद बंद कर दिया. So this is like kind of, you start thinking about solutions. Anything you do with your hands, it makes you way more confident in everything else in your life as well. And you will experience this if you start working with your hands. Again, you don't need to be a carpenter or electrician or any kind of mechanic. But As soon as you start working with your hands, even if you do it as a hobby, it'll make you problem solve on the go. So now, a little bit of the boring part is now I have a company. It's called Mishtu Made. My nickname is Mishtu. Any Bengalis will know. We have a Dak Naam and a Bhalo Naam. So my Dak Naam is Mishtu, and I wanted my name to be really simple. So it's stuff that I make. So about 2 years ago, I got a little bit disillusioned with my field, public policy, and I was like, I have this hobby, and I've made all the furniture in my own house, and all my friends want that stuff. I was like, all right, let's take a jump and let's see what happens. And I think it's also this experience of working with my hands that made me really confident of going, all right, let's just take a jump. You guys are really young. There should be no defined path for you yet. Like, take a jump. I took a jump at 38. I just said, well, let's see what happens. And now it's really amazing. And people like Deepak, they make me feel so good. They found me just on the internet. I am India's first professional female woodworker. And I never imagined, I didn't set up to do any of this. I just wanted something that I love doing, and I wanted to do it every day. One of the most interesting things a colleague told me once is that anytime you wake up in the morning and your job doesn't scare you, you should leave that job. In other words, not looking at it so negatively, when something stops challenging you and it becomes a chore to wake up every morning and show up, you shouldn't be doing that anymore. I understand you might have bills to pay and all of that, but essentially as a human being, if it isn't scaring you and challenging you, don't do that anymore. And my work had stopped challenging me. And every morning now I wake up, there's a new challenge waiting for me. And today it was like there are 102 bright students here, and I'm going to try and really entertain you and introduce you to some horrifying, terrifying tools and make sure that you don't cut off your fingers. That's the end goal for today, is that all of you are going back with all the fingers and toes you came with. And maybe you'll make something. We don't have a lot of time, there's a lot of you, but I'll introduce you to those tools. I don't know if you'll get access to that lab again, but of course if you come back and study here, they have an amazing woodworking lab with all of these like state-of-the-art tools that you won't find in other architecture schools, and I've taught in many design and architecture schools. So I'll introduce you to some stuff. There are these heavy power tools, and again, I guarantee none of you will lose fingers if you listen to me. And that's about it. Do you have any questions before we start doing hands-on stuff? No? Are you all really sleepy? Do you need to be around really loud, scary blades? Is that what you want? You are the one that did carpentry, and you just made a face right now when I said loud, scary blades. You can't be scared. You've apparently done carpentry. You can't be scared. So right now, I think the way we're going to do this is we already have sections.
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
sections.
So
Maybe we'll start with section A, maybe 25 minutes, 30 minutes, then section B, and then section C. So the other sections wait here, and one section can move with us.
yeah.
Before that, let's finish the formalities for the day, because
Okay.
we have something for you. Then
Oh.
we won't get the chance.
Okay. All right. Sure. I'm a little bit scared now. What's up? Oh.
Your name on this.
Oh, this is beautiful. Thank you so much. This is lovely.
JGU scarf.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very much. Thank you. Thank you.
So this is usually at the end of
Oh,
the
this is
event.
very pretty. Thank you.
And since we are moving to that
Yeah.
section, I thought let's do the formality and let's finish.
The people clapping to the beat of their own. Okay, section A, can we move on?
Section A, yeah, let's go to the studio. You know where it is, right? And no one goes to the hostel. Let's all be there.
They can also like.
Anybody in this section that did woodworking? Raise their hands. You done?
Does,
All of you done?
does nailing a screw in a piece of wood count?
Yeah, sure. Why not? I've done that. Okay. What were you nailing together?
I carved letters and
I
figures.
know, we had, I
Yeah.
went for a demo carpentry class. We also like, we have it in our school. So,
Huh?
we have it in our school too.
Okay. So have you made anything?
Yeah.
What?
letters and
And like a shoe rack kind of thing I made.
Okay, what kind of tools have you used?
Okay, hammers and all, and there's a machine to cut it. There's a needle kind of machine.
Do any of these
That-
that are like
that
look familiar?
Yeah, that
machine.
that
Yeah.
machine.
What is that machine? What is it?
It should cut wood, like there
It's
is
not.
Huh?
It's not.
So
It's called a drill press. That's a drill press. That does not cut wood. It cuts wood, but it basically makes holes in wood. If you look behind you, that right there is one of the most powerful and one of the things that you use lots of fingers to. It's called a table. Like that, you have to be on the only thing. Yeah. Don't touch the blade. See, my fingers are not even because I cut off the top of my finger on that. It's very easy. Like I said, the game of today, at the end of the day, is you go away with all of the fingers and toes you came with, right? If you're 10 of each, you're going away with 10 of each. Don't touch stuff, especially something that looks sharp. So that's called the table saw. One of the best parts about the table saw, it is a very powerful tool, but it helps us cut wood in very straight lines, right? So what we're going to do is, I want you guys to actually physically work with some wood, okay? How many students? About 10 students each on each of these tables.
Same group, color.
Break yourselves up into 10 each.
Can I go over here?
The reason to divide you all up is not so much that you can sit, that this is a woodworking workshop. Each one of you is going to use a different tool, and you're going to draw some shapes and you're going to cut those shapes for me. Okay? If one of you has an experience in woodworking, you can show your friends what you did before. Who all were claiming to be woodworkers here? There you go, 1, 2, 3. Alright, this table has no woodworkers, so I'll be with you. So what we're going to do is take pieces of wood.
मेरा साउंड इफेक्ट कैसा था वीडियो में? मेरा साउंड इफेक्ट कैसा था?
So this is a table saw. Stand up and watch. Stand up. This is a table saw. What it does is it's going to cut some wood for me right now, but you remember where you were, okay? Because these pieces that I'm cutting, I'm going to give them to you guys. So a few things that I need to do. That's okay, don't worry about it. The few things that we need to do is. ये हो जाएगा, टाइप करूँगी। So the first thing I'm going to do is make sure that the height of this blade, which my friend here was, one of you guys was touching, cuts through all of the wood, right? So there is something here. So I'm going to, can you guys see the blade rising and falling here? So I'm going to raise it above the material, common sense, logic. I'm going to just raise it above the material so the blade kind of cuts through the material. I'm teaching you a little bit of woodworking, but it's not going to, like, this is not all of woodworking. Now, you always want, this is a blade that's cutting through the wood, right? So it's also like eating into the wood. So it tends to, as they call, bind the wood. So if there is too much of the blade, it's actually going to eat into the wood and then it might kick back, which is not fun. When you have a piece of wood flying at you, it is not fun at all. So you want to be able to sort of have it cut through the material. Sorry, can you just, yeah, cut through the material but not be far up enough. Also, if you think about it, you guys are all done some amount of science. This is a piece of metal that's going to be moving really, really fast. Wood burns, as the people that have done barbecues know. So what happens when a piece of metal is moving really, really fast and there's a lot of friction? What's going to happen? It's going to heat up and it burns the wood, right? So you have also got to, when we work these machines, we have also got to be cognizant of the fact that this is a piece of metal that is going really, really fast. In fact, sometimes when the blade is, how do we increase friction? If the blade is dull, right, it's not sharp enough, so it's going to take longer to cut. So if the blade is not sharp enough and we are pushing the wood through, it's going to eventually end up burning the wood. Not going to catch on fire unless you put like turpentine or something on the wood to make it burn. But it's going to start smoking, and if you're making really nice furniture, to have burnt pieces of wood is never going to look good, right? Now, some of the very important things that you need, I've actually left my stuff in your car. Yeah, so yeah, you're not going to be wearing clothes like this when you're woodworking, ideally. Don't wear a white shirt. So, A is an apron, but much more importantly, you need a pair of goggles, yeah. So you need a pair of goggles. These are very, very important, actually not for sharp objects. So these are very, very important. I'm not going to put one on top of my glasses, but these are super important because you have no idea how much material flies off it. And when it flies off it, it takes like milliseconds and you're blind. One of my best friends who does woodworking, he has a quote, and this is not to scare you guys, but with everything dangerous that we do, he says, death will happen. Don't do this, death will happen. And I totally believe him. So now I'm going to start this.
No,
Yeah, but blade is not, yeah. The blade is not sharp enough. Anyway. Yeah. So, over. Alright. Now I need one volunteer that wants to try this out. You wanna do it? Come on over. Alright. So first thing, yes, wear an apron, get a pair of safety glasses.
Can you pass on the glasses from there?
So what are the different things I mentioned? So first thing you're going to do is measure whether do you see the lever? So push turn it up and down to turn it up and down. Push the blade up and down, right? And okay, so every time you do any adjustments, it's really good. This is the thing. ये इसका plug है ना? हाँ, unplug it. Always unplug your machines. You can never be too careful because again, this is stuff, as my friend says, death will happen. So let's not make death happen or losing fingers. So always unplug your stuff when you're adjusting the blade, when you're doing any kind of stuff. When you're finally ready to cut, then plug you in your machines. And this goes for almost any kind of machines that you're going to use, right? If you ever come into art and architecture, even if you don't do carpentry work or anything, there's metal smithing stuff back there. Anytime you do any of this work, make sure everything is aligned because many of these just have one button to push before the machine starts. So you don't want this to start. So you want, remember I said the blade needs to be just above. Is that about right? Yeah. So we're gonna, this is called fence. We butt this up against the fence to get a straight cut most of the time. Wood is not very straight here, that's a whole other story. All you're gonna do is you're gonna hold this part. I'm gonna do this part. You come here. You're just going to push this. Yeah, put that on. You're just gonna hold this with your right hand and push it along. Okay? And you're gonna hold this piece of wood here. Yeah. you're gonna just hold this piece of wood and push it along, right, like that. And I'm gonna just put it from here, and here. None of your fingers and hands come on this side, okay? Now, plug it in. Wait, it's too tight. Push it, see if it is working. Okay, try it without that. Yeah, push, there you go. Alright, now we're gonna push it back, on the way back. Now, bend over, can you see a green button and a red button?
Yeah.
Turn on the green one. Always remember, once you've switched it off, it will still rotate for a couple more seconds and it is no less dangerous. So once you're done cutting, sometimes the instinct is like this piece might go flying and you might go to catch it. Don't. What will happen again? Your fingers will not. We do not grow fingers. I want the blade to like bind to this because then it will like push it back, kick it back. Right? So right now, the way the blade is moving, it is actually pushing it towards that side. But if it binds, then it's going to kick the wood back. And you don't want to be... Wait, hold on. What's happening? Okay, take it. Just turn it on. But before that, let me just tell you. So,
level has changed.
yeah. So, you're going to hold this with your right hand, the piece of wood with your left, and just push it along. Right? Right and left. Your hands never come to this side. And always, like when you're doing this kind of work,